All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this presentation today, where I will tell you about how hundreds of people collaborate on the Klarna app. So, what's in store for you today? I want to set expectations. I want to set them right. So, there's probably nobody at the company who knows everything about the Klarna app just by themselves. So, some things that I might show today might not things that I have personally authored. There might be other people who can answer your questions. I'm not simultaneously front-end, back-end, DevOps, and design system guy. But if you're interested, we can talk about it at the end a little bit, and we can figure out what you want to know next time, so I can bring those people here. Personally, I'm just the one that consumes all these things, and I can tell you what my experience there. So I want to show you the holistic experience of how we work on the Klarna app. All right, so first up, who this? Hello, I'm Khanh. You can see me here in the front with our lovely sponsors of today, Hybrid Heroes. I've been there for a lovely 3 years as a QA slash front-end developer slash working student. Had a lovely 3 years there. I can vouch for them. Hit them up. And lately, for the past 2 years, I have been a software engineer at Klarna and hitting the 2-year marks in, I think, next week. There's me again, this time in the back. That's it about me. So, who's Klarna and why do they have an app? So, the very, very, very short version of it is they are the pink button in your online checkout next to the blue buttons, next to your Visa and PayPal pay buttons. The bit longer version of it is that Klarna is a fintech company providing online financial services such as payment processing services, which is our main bread and butter, but also store claims, customer payments. We also have some banking services, personal finance tools. We also do open banking, virtual shopping experience, pricing credits, la la la. And even more stuff, which I'm not going to show here. And in numbers, we have about 45 countries where we're live, with live products in 23 markets. We serve 150 million global consumers and resolve about 2 million purchases per day, where we have also partnered up with 500 merchants. So whenever you see a little pink button in your checkout experience, that is a merchant we have partnered up with. Now, what Klarna also does is an app. And for that, I would rather show than tell. So it is also demo time for me. Let's switch over here. Now, this is the Klarna app. I just want to go through a couple of experiences you can have on the app. I swear it's going to be, it will set the context a little bit better. But with the Klarna app, you can basically shop for stuff. You can use this little online web browser where you can do your shopping live in the app. So we call this little experience the shopping assistant or shopping browser. You can go to the checkout here and with the help of the assistant, look for deals or price check an item or pay directly with some of your Klarna payment methods. And I don't know. I think I wanted to test this cool feature because I've never tried it. So this is the first time I'll actually do, which is checking items. Let's see if it works. It takes a while. And yes, we have a 95% match on this Logitech MX Master 3. There's also a little bit of price comparison on this. So think Idealo. We have that as well. Price history and everything, reviews, etc., etc. Now, what blows my mind even more is that in this app we actually have a bank, like a proper bank, which is the Klarna bank account with a proper IBAN and everything. So we are actually a licensed bank in Europe, in Sweden. And yeah, you can do your transactions here, Festgeldkonto, whatever your heart desires. And then there's this little part as well, the Klarna Card, our credit card product, which is what my team works on and will be relevant a little bit later on. So for example, you can manage your credit card here. Show the PIN, freeze it, or cancel a card, whatever. Pay a little bit attention to this feature, where we can change the payment method for the card. Either I buy something and I pay later, or I pay now. This payment selection feature, because we will talk about it a bit later. So, now back to the slides we go. What the hell? The Klarna app in numbers. We have about 27 million monthly active users, 80 million total app downloads, and roughly about 800 contributors to the app. I showed you the whole demo, not just to be a walking, talking Klarna advertisement, but to also just say that there's a lot of features in the app. Way back then, we were pursuing this whole idea of a super app. You might know the concept from Asian countries like WeChat or Alipay and whatnot, where you can do everything inside the app. We were pursuing that feature, that concept for a while. We are actually scaling back now because we have too many features in the app and it's confusing customers. That's a story for another time. So, boatload of features, boatload of customers, boatload of developers. How do we all handle that? And for that, I present to you the Klarna app ecosystem, lovingly called Cleco. Now, before we jump in, I just want to reiterate, I'm more of a consumer of these services that I will present to you today. So I was kind of debating back and forth how much to show you, how deep to go into certain topics, but I will stay probably more high level, talk a bit about the engineering part that enables it, the product design part that enables it, the project management part that enables it. So I hope there's a little bit for everybody. So here's the first big reveal, our operating model. You heard it in the intro video. We have 13 domains that work on this product. And a domain is basically a group of teams that work on a similar problem space. So basically an amalgamation of a couple different teams. I think this is nothing super revolutionary. And those teams are people that consist of different competencies. So I think my team would be, let's say, 4 engineers, 1 engineering manager, 1 project manager, an analytics guy, and a design person. We combine that, and those teams work very autonomously. Oh yeah, and yeah, the different competencies, design, marketing, engineering, etc. So this is basically just a Spotify model. We copied it from them, like many companies, so from one Swedish company to another. This operating model enables us to be very autonomous. We call each of these teams like little startups. So we own our product end to end. We decide our own KPIs, we decide the direction where it goes, we decide design, what to put in there, and how we solve issues in there. Just a small example, in the card and banking domain, that is where I am. We deal with card and banking products. For example, the Klarna credit card that I showed you, as well as the banking account. Within that domain, we are the card payment experience team. We have these teammates that I just mentioned. And for example, we own the card payment experience scope. So all the transactions, how to pay stuff, the payment method, and we own all of it. Product vision, front-end components, back-end services. So is the demo still going? All this stuff, yeah. We holistically own the card payment experience. And one of our core packages would be the card payment options package. The Monorepo. We have a Monorepo sponsored lovingly by Yarn Workspaces. Why do we have a Monorepo? Because at the end of the day, we have one main deliverable, which is the Klarna app. We can use a single pipeline for everything. It is transparent for everybody. We can share code. We can shuffle things around. And also we have client and services under the hood. So just real short, monorepos for anybody who's not familiar with them. We basically couple all the related projects under one umbrella, not just the front end, but the front end, back end, CLI, tools, documentation, basically everything you can think of. And within that Monorepo, we decided on one language, which would be JavaScript, to be very precise, TypeScript. So that means solutions can be easily ported. We can reuse code. It is a low context switch because a lot of people at Klarna already know JavaScript, and it also means people can move around because projects can be short-lived at Klarna. I've been in my 3 years at 4 different teams, and each time I was able to move around because I know JavaScript. I can move to that team. We combine this team, and it still all works. And of course, one app, because I forgot to mention this one repository contains the code for iOS, Android, web, and extension. Now, this web and extension part might seem weird to you, so I will also show it. So in fact, the same app that I just demoed also works on web. I will go into the details how it works exactly later, but I can tell you it is not React Native web. But yeah, I have my Klarna bank account here, my cards here, and it is an adaptive experience, not just responsive. So the whole UI will change according to the needs of the user on web. And then, and this is really very far outside my area of expertise, but we have an extension, which is also the Klarna app, but in a very, very, very reduced form. So you can also look at your profile here, check some settings, your cashback, check your Klarna card, and your wishlist item of all the items in the app. Yep, roughly the same, not the same experience, but roughly the same idea. So, back to the presentation. Oh yes, to rule them all. And it's already demo time again, actually. So what I want to do is walk you a little bit through our repository setup. I won't go into too much detail there, but oopsie. Basically, this is the Klarna app repository. We will start from the bottom. We have basically everything in here. We have CLIs, the pipeline, some Docker images, not Docker images, services, which are the microservices that our client consumes, and of course, the client part, which is the most important part of today. Let me just shortcut to it over here. And this client package contains a lot of what we call isolated packages. An isolated package is basically one feature package. What I showed you before with the little payment options is one single package with its own feature set, isolated from everybody else's. And it's called, of course, card payment options. Now we can dig a little bit deeper into here and see that there are a couple of sub-directories as well. And this is all powered by the Yarn workspaces setup that we have, which means all of these are using the same node modules, actually. They are being deduplicated. We don't have any node modules in here because we will use the ones at the root of the client package. And in this package, we just have a small package JSON denoting the name of this package and what team owns it. In this case, this is our team ID. The team ID will be relevant later on when I explain something. And this tells everybody this package belongs to our team. There's some other stuff in here, which it might differ for teams around Klarna, but the most important ones are the store, Redux store, the routes, which are our screens, the navigation, which we expose to other teams. Now, let's take a look at a sub-package, which is the routes package. In this package, this one. Give me a second. Here, the routes file. So here we have defined one of the entry points for the card payment. Zoom in, of course. Yes, even further. And now it's going to be a bit hard to navigate. Does this work? Yeah. All right, here we go. So this is one of the entry points to our card payment options feature. One thing to point out here is this is all React Native router, by the way. That's a very vanilla setup, except for that we just lazy load everything in. So when you open the app, not all of the 300 feature packages load at once or something. So this thing will only be opened once they actually want to use the feature. And inside the routes folder, we have some components. Let's check out the About page and look at the import a little bit. Basically, we have 3 types of imports in the Klarna repo. One is our very own local imports. These are just local files, relative files. And we also have public libraries from Klarna. Let's say basically all of these, let's say Clap Core, Clap Traits, Clap UI are public, whereas everything that has like a bit weirder name, like a product name, Clap Card Create, will be an exposed feature. So this package we don't own. This is what somebody else owns. I just added this line here because I want to navigate to their screen, which is the screen for creating Klarna cards, so signing up for the card inside the app. Now, this code lives somewhere completely else. It's in another package in the, here, card create navigation subpackage. When I do that, I will have to let them know that I use it. Now, usually the linter will complain that you will have to check your dependencies. It doesn't because my compiler just crashed. But you would basically have to do this. So you tell them what's up. Now, what this will trigger during PR is that the team will, will have to accept your change. If I scroll all the way down here, there's this merge check. Let me zoom in again, which will tell you, OK, you use this package with this package. This is who they belong to. And you can change it without their permission. You need to get an approval from them. And this works with your own little identity. We call it LDAP inside the company. And on that identity, you basically have like certain rights. In this case, I didn't have a right to manipulate that repository. So I will have to get approval from them. And this makes sure that we always have a hand check between both of them. And we know that how the data will be used, how the function, where the function is being used, and nothing breaks. So moving back to our repository. What's also important to note is that every single isolated feature package, yes?
How do you implement that ownership hook?
Could you repeat that?
How do you implement that ownership hook?
Ownership. This does not happen in the Monorepo. This is basically happens on a Bitbucket. I'm not completely sure what the implementation detail is there, but on a very high level, yeah, we have these certain rights. The CLI or whatever will, the pipeline will just check, you have used this package, do you have the rights actually to manipulate it? And it will then notify the correct team of it. And then it's a manual process. You talk to them or let them review it, change it up until you both agree you can change it.
Basically, if I understood correctly, it's a Bitbucket will be plugin or configuration.
Basically, yeah. I'm not too sure about the details, but it does not happen in the Monorepo. Yep, where was I? OK. Next part is one of these sub-packages of the card payment options package, which is a store. Let's say a very vanilla Redux store. This little thing. Now, every single isolated package will have its own store. We used to have a global store where you can just combine everything, and people were able to see everything inside the store, and that brought us into legal issues. Because for some of the data inside the app, you need consent. Let's say you have this personal address that you consented to for a certain feature, and some other team is going to read that and use it, and then your team loses ownership of that data. So we have changed this, and now every single package will have its own store. So now to summarize, package by themselves, its own store, its own functions, and its own service as well. So when I showed you the little payment options button, it will also have its very own microservice. So when we look into this API package here, it has something called a CPO BFF, which stands for Card Payment Options, not best friends forever, but backend for frontend, which means that it will have a dedicated service to this package. We can take a quick look at it. If we go to the services folder and check Card Payment Options BFF, which is a regular node service. This part is a bit more the Wild West. There's no restrictions on the services. Services can be very varied. So I won't go into detail much there. But I want to mention one more thing about this. So I basically said we don't use React Native Web. So how do we actually have a web app? And that is basically where the design system comes in. We have, yes, our own little design library where we can use these components, and they will, at compile time, compile to the correct experience. So basically, I just use this typography component. It will use, and I use it in my app down here. And once I compile it, it will resolve correctly into the web, native, and extension variant. Because, of course, we don't have React Native components for web. This is it about this part. I want to go back to the slides. So again, the good things are visibility. We can share the code. We have a shared CI and CD pipeline. And we have this built-in dependency management, because you can't touch other people's stuff without permission. They won't touch your stuff without permission. There will always have to be some kind of transaction that you will need to do with the others, which happens on the PR level on Bitbucket. Now, it also dedupes all the node modules. So not every team has to import that design library that I mentioned. It is at the root level of the project, and you can reuse however you want. And everybody uses the same libraries, basically. And it also enables us to be multi-platform, like I mentioned. Now, the bad thing is, this just means there's more things to build, test, and run. And the VS Code can sometimes die trying to process the massive Git history. And the TypeScript compiler becomes a little bit slow after working for a little bit. And the CI builds take like roughly about 30 minutes on every commit. And the ugly I will save for later. So before we go into other parts, I want to talk about the design system. Not too much, because I think Michele already did a fantastic job there. But yes, we also have a design system called Bubble UI. And for that, it is once again demo time, this time not code, but let's jump onto Figma. Ooh. So it's important to note that both the designers and the developers work on the same design system. So the developers get the implementation of the design system. The designers will be working on the Figma version of the design system. Because you might know that situation where a designer goes completely overboard, makes a super fancy design, and then you as a developer get a bit anxious and say, that's not possible. And then the designer's a bit sad. So this is where we meet in the middle and say, this looks like how you want it to look like. And we don't have to do much to enable that for you. So I want to give you an example of how I, as a developer, would be working with our design system. Just a second. I didn't prepare this well enough. Let me check. It is this one. So imagine your product manager comes up to you, tells you this needs to be done by tomorrow. Then he gives you a Jira ticket and only links the Figma because he was kind of lazy. So this is all you have to go to work with. And you will have to kind of figure out how to do this design. Now, I, as a developer, I turn on this really cool feature that Figma added, which is the dev mode. And I can find everything that I need about the screen, which is the spacing, the font. So this is like the 24 pixel margin. I can check the font. And we have these little things called design tokens, which is very similar to how Tailwind works. So yeah, so 24 pixels, what is that? I have this little, let me just load these all. Yeah, 24 pixel, what is that? It is a space token of 300. Okay, I got that, I remember that. What color will this little part here be? Can you see everything? I'm not sure how you zoom in here. No, that doesn't work. Okay, I can't zoom in on Figma. And we also have a text token, which tells me what kind of text it will be. I don't have to look at any of the values. I just take the text token. I also have color token. So token this, token that. Here's how I will then do it. I use a typography component that we have at Klarna. This one. And I just give it the correct tokens. For example, what was the text? It was 100. Give it a white background. The text token, I forgot. It was text labeled body medium. So I set the token to text labeled body medium. And the color token to text accent, like this. And it's really hard to see, but this is basically what we need. And this is basically how it will look inside the code. Very similar experience to what Michele showed you on Storybook, except that we don't do it in Storybook in this case. We can actually, but I don't have time to show you that. Cool. So that makes life for me as a developer a million times easier. And the designer's happy. And it looks good in the end, I hope. So going back to the slides. The next part that pulls everything together is the pipeline. I'm calling it ominously the pipeline because people either love it or hate it. It does a lot of stuff. It does all of our tests, validates assets, it deploys our services, deploys the web version and the extension, runs end-to-end tests, a lot of stuff. Just to visualize it a bit better, we have this, no, not here. Ooh. This whole laundry list of things that the pipeline will need to do, which is why it takes 30 minutes to run. Sometimes even worse, it can go up to 1 hour when the iOS visual tests go really wrong. And basically everything that we test, everything that we run also has to be multiplied by 4 because we have 4 platforms to maintain. Yes, it's a lot actually. So, all of these could be a talk on their own. I might just zoom in on a little part, which is called the testing. Testing allows everybody at Klarna to be on the same page, to know how your components behave, what has changed, if somebody broke your component, whatever else. We are very vanilla in this case. We have the little testing pyramid or testing trophy depending on how you define it. And so at the very bottom, we have the static typing, static testing, which is ESLint and TypeScript. We have our unit tests, which we are doing with Jest. And we have two types of integration tests, which we do with React testing library. So we render the component, check if some buttons work and some stuff behaves correctly, and if certain elements appear correctly on the component. And then we have one of my favorites, which is quite a hot take, actually, which is storybook visual tests. Somebody mentioned visual regression testing before. It is a hot take because they are extremely expensive. You will have to run the native emulator or simulator to get the results and render them out, take a screenshot. And it is very heavy on the pipeline. It's, I don't know, I don't want to put a number on it, but probably half of the work the pipeline does. But we still keep them because they're so valuable. I will show you an example later, but further below, we also have end-to-end tests, which is Cypress and Appium. Cypress for the web part and Appium for the native part. So think of them as robotic workers, clicking on your little app, clicking through it, checking if everything's there. And the final end-to-end test is, of course, our manual hands, because we do not have a QA department. We test everything ourselves. Because have I mentioned that the Klarna app releases every week? So every week, on top of our testing, which made us more confident for the release, we also test by hand again. The engineers, no QA people. Sounds like Stone Age, but it works. And yeah, also to mention, the pipeline has heuristics to determine which tests to run and checks to run. So it is a bit smart. It can see which packages and services are affected and will run tests accordingly. And if some tests already succeeded in your previous commit, it will also not run them again, because then we would be really in trouble. And again, just my take, best bang for your buck is visual tests. Imagine somebody came into your component, changed something, they want your review, and because we're working on front-end stuff, it's kind of hard to just judge it from the code. Instead, what we do is we just look on Bitbucket, on the diffs, and there's this little preview. You can check and compare the screenshots side by side, which is immensely helpful. This is the first thing I look at when I review something from another team. So yeah, the ugly. Just in no particular order, this thing guzzles up RAM like crazy. When you run this on the iOS simulator or the Android emulator, we go up to like 27 gigabytes of memory used out of 32. I am getting a new MacBook in the next 2 weeks, and we had to protest hard for them to give us 32 gigabytes because we cannot work on the Klarna app with 16 gigabytes. The same thing that I mentioned that was cool is also one of the drawbacks. The visual testing can be flaky. When something is flaky, it might pass the pipeline. It passes the pipeline, it gets merged, and the next time it won't run anymore. And the next time it won't run, you break the pipeline for everybody, for all the 800 people. So one person can mess up the whole thing, and then everybody is blocked merging anything because of this flaky visual test. Or any test, really, but these are the main culprits usually. We have some things to mitigate that. We have like some tools to drop these certain visual tests directly from the testing pipeline right away without doing any merges or whatever. But still, it's suboptimal. And it's like one of the main reasons that something doesn't get merged, usually. And then also, yeah, they take long, like 30 minutes. Come on. Cool. Then on a more abstract part of Cleco, the community. The community is fantastic. We have many different Slack channels where we can talk about the app, what we're going to do next for the app, how we're going to do this or that, or you might need a particular feature. You can just reach out to them. There's like a channel with 800 people in there. You ask something, it usually gets answered right away. You want to just sanity check a new idea, you go there. And of course, we have our lovely Cleco docs. over here, which have learning videos, some team documentations, and also a blog with like new releases and announcements. And yeah, you can just, usually when you want to know anything about the app, want to do something, you can find it here. You want to implement WebSockets inside the app, somebody already did it. You want to know how to check, how to use the right to be forgotten, so how to delete user data that the user requested due to GDPR. It's also resolved. And I think last time somebody also figured out how to integrate Siri into our app for whatever reason. And there you go. You can use it. We use the package. It's public. Yes, it's very, very good. So, exactly, apes together strong. And there's my favorite channel, App Dev Support. You can get everything you want there. Now, but all of that might sound like chaos. Every team does their own thing, and we just think of stuff, and we implement it, and we just put it out there, but that's not true. We actually have one team leading the ship, which is the App Client Platform. So these wonderful people, the heroes that empower us every day to work on the app. So they usually set the groundwork for everything that we do inside the app. Like the more native part of the setup, the iOS and Android Codebase, they handle app complexity, and also whenever you change something more deep inside the code, they will also review it. So you can't just change the whole Monorepo by yourself. Your influence usually just extends to your own packages that you own. Yes. And that brings us to the end of our presentation.